connection, engagement, rigor, success. Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Coaching You Through All Things Education. And you can find me right here on Tuesdays at noon. I'm your host, Ann Labangana Clay of ANC Unlimited. And we take the stress out of education. I am a passionate educator who has spent the past 26 years teaching and coaching students of all ages, parents, other educators, and the public. Each week, we will unpack relevant topics in education together. And when I'm not podcasting, stop by our website, acunlimited.org, for a free consultation on effective strategies for workplace burnout. We also provide 3 levels of interview coaching and custom design workshops made just for you. You can find me on LinkedIn at Ann Labangana Clay, on our company Facebook page, ANC Unlimited, and on Twitter at AnnHC_champ for all. Check our story notes for our other social media details. Have an episode suggestion? Send it to coachingallthingsedu@gmail.com. Now let's dive in. Welcome to episode 8 of Coaching You Through All Things Education podcast. We are so excited today because we get to have a conversation with author, teacher of the year, and premier speaker, Jonathan Alsheimer, who recently released his book, Next Level Teaching: Empowering Students and Transforming School Culture. The book was released in March of 2020. Jonathan is a passionate educator at the infamous Fred M. Lynn Middle School in Virginia, and under the leadership of Hamish Brewer, who is also an author, a nationally distinguished skateboarding principal, they have transformed the culture of their school. Recently, I had the opportunity to hear Jonathan's words of wisdom as a part of a live audience on the Focus Ed podcast. While Jonathan was the guest, I was completely energized by your words and your passion, Jonathan, that I just had to bring you on to my show and make you available to my audience and their listening ears. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot to unpack, so let us begin. Question number 1. Jonathan, tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself and unpack your quote, "Game changing is not a cliche motto. It is a way of life. Some talk about it while others live by it."
Absolutely, I could do that. Yeah, my name is Jonathan Alsheimer. I'm a middle school teacher at the Fred Lynn Middle School. I often say that because I'm blessed to have the opportunity to work with probably the most famous principal on the planet, the most famous school on the planet, Hamish Brewer. And there's been some documentaries about our school, and so I'm blessed to work there. I'm a middle school history teacher, and kind of from there, I'm just kind of throw this out there. I've worked for 12 years in the world of education, and in 12 years in the world of education, I've only worked at-risk schools. And the focus is to go from a failing school to a successful school. And luckily, at Fred the Middle School, we did that, and it was documented in our documentaries, Relentless at Chasing Accreditation, and always looking to kind of go the next step. And what else can we do to kind of push the boundaries of education, so to speak? And I think for me, that's a big, big thing. From there, as a classroom teacher, how do you push the boundaries of education? And one of the things I've always wanted to do is, of course, write a book. So now I'm an author of Next Level Teaching, and Amazon #1 best new release when it came out, which was great. And then, of course, I got into the world of educational speaking and public speaking, and I kind of just decided, you know what, I'm a teacher that's, I don't pretend like I have all the answers. I certainly don't have all the answers. Are you kidding me? But at the same time, like I really have this passion and love for education. I have this fire for education and this, kind of never ending energy. And I just want to kind of refuel educators out there and kind of share what I do know and what my passions are when it comes to education and building school culture and building classroom culture. And at the end of the day, just getting kids excited about learning and getting kids just running into your classroom and just happy to be there. And of course, that's kind of my game plan. Going back to the quote, game changing, is not a cliche motto. Some talk about it while others live by. What I mean by that is quite simply this. Oftentimes we hear this idea of game change. Let's be game changers. Let's do this. Let's do that. But sometimes, a lot of times, it's just talk. What are you doing to actually do those things? And where some people just say the words, "I want to be a game changer," or let's change the game of education. Well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you showing it in the way that you walk into your school? Are you showing it in the way that you walk into your classroom? Are you showing it in the way that you're prepping your classes? And of course, it's never going to be perfect. It's absolutely never going to be perfect. But are you going all out? Are you trying to make your classroom the best it could possibly be? And if you are, and if you're trying to stretch the boundaries, whether it be you're writing a book or whether you're speaking or whether you're going into your classroom, you're like, you know what? Let's try something absolutely cool. If you're doing that, that's game changing, because you know what's going to happen from there? You're going to have kids in your classroom that are excited to be there, and they're going to know there's just something different about you as a teacher. There's something different about you as a leader. There's something different about you as a person. And I want to know more. I want to get involved. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to learn. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
I love that. Students who can't wait to get to our classrooms, and that we need to stop and reflect on what we're doing to push the boundaries. Yes, indeed. Your fire and your energy, Jonathan, are contagious. And even if our audience is listening towards the end of the week, they will likely, as well as I, be rejuvenated. And that's what I love about your message. So thank you. Question number 2. Could you provide a brief summary of your newly released DBC Inc. book, Next Level Teaching, and share with us where the content and the title of the book evolved from?
Absolutely. So the book Next Level Teaching is literally my concept of this. Schools are a place that so often teachers are like, you know what, the school culture, that's on the administrators. For me as a teacher, like I can only control what's happening in my classroom, and after that, it's everybody else's problem. And in my opinion, whether it be school culture, classroom culture, anything involving the school, teachers are the driving force of that. Teachers are the driving force of school culture. What we do, we see the kids every single day, and we have an opportunity to, number one, kind of create this amazing classroom culture with what we do, the student engagement, building relationships, and just our passion and energy for teaching is going to be felt in that classroom. And what we do is going to just create an environment where kids can help but get sucked into it, right? But after that, this idea of next level teaching, after that, it's what are you doing outside your classroom? How are you changing your school? How are you being an influence on kids' lives outside of that classroom? And sometimes it's quite simply when the kids leave, what they do is they leave your classroom and they're so pumped up for learning. They're so pumped up for what just happened in your classroom that they leave the hallway. And just from the energy that leaves from your classroom infiltrates the school, and the hallways are more positive. They're going to go into math and science and they're going to be more positive. They're more ready to learn because they just had a great time. And likewise, if it's the other way around and it's negative, you're creating this negative atmosphere within your school. But teachers have that ability one way or the other, and they decide what they want to do. They decide how they want to change their school. They decide how they want to impact their school. And literally, it's the teachers that see the kids every day in the hallways every day. We are the ones that are that driving force of school culture. Of course, I often say you need to have powerful administrators that have a great foundation for school culture, have a great foundation within the school. They got to give you the resources that you need, the opportunities, and give you the green light to have fun, right? But it's the teachers. No school culture is going to be positive and effective and create an environment where kids want to be there without teachers that walk into that building and they are just electrified with this energy and passion and love for kids and love for teaching, right? And for me, the idea of writing this book came from what did I want to know when I walked out of college? Like when I've been teaching for 12 years, right? And by no means am I a perfect educator. I've got so many things I need to improve on, just like we all do, right? And if you're not, and if you don't think you have something to improve on, then maybe you need to leave the profession. But this idea of what did I wish I knew 12 years ago that would really be a game changer right now? And on top of that, in my book, it's an inspirational book that's my philosophies on education. And I want to uplift teachers and show them that their impact is felt beyond their classroom. Their impact is felt within the families that they work with and the community that they serve. That's the overall goal of that book, just influencing your classroom, influencing the school, and ultimately influencing the community that you serve every single day.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You talked about so many things, and this book of yours covers a lot, which is great. It's perfect for educators, and it sounds like it's perfect for administrators. Everyone needs to be tapping into how we can make our school culture thrive, particularly in 2020. So this is the perfect book for all of us. You remind us that it's great to make those connections and have those interactions with students while they're in our classroom, but you are challenging us to think about ways that we can connect and interact with our students outside of our own classes, and that is something that we as educators need to think more about. Your book helps to guide us. Let's take a brief break, and we'll be right back with Jonathan Alsheimer.
Are you ready to share your voice, your vision, and your mission? Are you ready to turn your passion into a profit? Then you need to start a podcast today. Hello, I'm Antoinette Blake, the CEO of A. Blake Enterprises Social Media Marketing and Consulting. And I invite you to send an email to info@ablakeenterprises.com to schedule a 30-minute complimentary discovery call so that we can talk about what it is that you want to share with the world. What is the legacy that you want to leave with your voice? You can also register for a podcasting coaching session for a one-time investment of $159. You'll be able to start your own podcast, turning that passion into a profit. Again, send an email to me at info@ablakeenterprises.com. So using your voice, you can literally change someone's life.
Welcome back with our special guest, Jonathan Alsheimer. Our third question is, what are some key takeaways from the next level teaching that will add the most value for educators?
Absolutely. I would say that there's a few big ones. All right. Number one, I like to break it up into kind of like three major categories, and that's the student engagement factor, the relationship factor, and then what environment are you creating within your school? And in terms of this, like when you're creating an amazing classroom, so oftentimes we walk by classrooms and you can tell right off the bat if there's a classroom that's just electrifying where kids can't wait to be there, it's probably because the student engagement factor within the classroom is so well put together. You have kids that know when I go into math or when I go into language arts, when I go into this history class with this teacher, they're going to be doing something totally cool. They're going to be doing something that's got me locked in, right? And if you do that, that also allows you the opportunity to build relationships with your kids. You have kids that sometimes it doesn't matter what you say to them. They don't want to connect with you. But if they walk into your classroom and you just have this lesson plan they're just drawn to, and you just have this energy and this passion for what you do that they're just drawn to, all of a sudden now you're building relationships with your kids and you haven't even really tried. It's just through your amazing lesson plans that you do. And then from there, what are you doing to build relationships with those kids? And part of it is this idea of you walking into your classroom with a passion to make an impact on the lives of the kids that you teach, with an energy and a love for teaching that they can see as soon as you start class. And then that engagement factor, of course, how you engage them with your instruction, but also how you're engaging with them on that relationship level. And then finally, what environment are you creating, not only in your classroom, but in your school? What environment are you creating? Are you creating an environment where kids feel welcome, where kids feel accepted? Are you creating an environment where kids can't help but get drawn into it because it's exciting? You might be teaching about a topic that's relatively dry, but how can you flip the script and make it where it's something that's really exciting? Where kids are like, man, this isn't me just like reading something out of a textbook. This is me like living it. Like, for example, when I was teaching the Great Depression, I turned my classroom into the stock market crash of 1929. We literally could have read a paragraph out of the book and seen a picture of some guy who lost his car in New York City street. Instead, I turned it into a situation where not only did we learn about history, but they lived it. And at the end of the class, I had kids that were standing up in complete shock because they lived that stock market crash. I took all their money away. All of a sudden, they thought they were millionaires. And by the end of class, they were broke. And then we turned it into, well, this is what people felt like in 1929. They were millionaires, and all of a sudden they were losing their house and their business. They were losing their jobs. That's the environment part of it. And it doesn't matter what subject you teach. Part of it is your instruction, but part of it is just that love and energy for teaching. And when you are walking away from takeaways in terms of my book, it's simply those major things. What are you doing in your classroom to make it where it's high levels of instruction, where kids are engaged in whatever it is, boring topics, awesome topics, doesn't matter. We can always do something just a little bit different to flip the script on them. And with those relationships and that environment you create, man, kids can't help but get sucked into the learning, sucked into I love to use the word fun. I know some people are like, oh, don't use the word fun. That's such a bad word in education. You kidding me? Everybody loves to have fun, and whether you're an adult or a kid, right? And it's through those experiences, through learning, that just draws kids in. And I also say this too, and this is in the book as well. If you're bored, so are your students. If you're teaching, you might as well have a good time teaching. And if you're having a good time teaching, the kids are going to have a good time learning.
Yes, indeed. Wow. All right. Our last question. We want to keep you on longer, of course, but our last question is trending right now on our podcast show. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what legacy message would you print on it and why?
That's a really awesome question. And honestly, mine would say this. It would say, whatever it takes. As a matter of fact, I have a T-shirt that says, whatever it takes. And in my opinion, whether you're talking about the learning process, whether you're talking about the relationship process, whether you're talking about kids talking about their future in education, or whether you're talking about kids just trying to make it through the day in a school, whatever it takes to make that happen, whatever it takes to make your classroom a place where kids feel valued, whatever it takes to make your classroom a place where kids feel accepted, where they don't feel judged, whatever it takes where kids walk into your classroom and they're like, man, I got to tell you, Mr. A, I couldn't stand history at any point in my life, but man, social studies is my new favorite subject. Or whether that means I got to jump on top of a table, I got to play some crazy game, and on top of that, it's whatever it takes in the hallways and throughout the school to making school a place where kids want to be. And that's going to be my legacy. I want people to remember me for that. He's the guy that did whatever it took. And sometimes it meant a little bit of extra energy. Sometimes it meant a little bit of extra planning. And sometimes it meant when I was tired, throwing on some silly costume during assembly and grabbing the microphone and getting kids amped up, even though I didn't want to. But it's whatever it takes to make school a place where my kids want to be.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Our audience is just blown away by your energy, but more importantly, your words. You're going to leave a legacy of your words, and we appreciate that. Thank you
so much.
Well, that concludes another episode of Coaching You Through All Things Education podcast. As Confucius states, those who develop the ability to continuously acquire new and better forms of knowledge that they can apply to their work and to their lives will be the movers and shakers in our society for the indefinite future. Again, you can find me on LinkedIn or on our company Facebook page, A&C Unlimited And please take a moment to visit our website at acunlimited.org for that free consultation. Until next time, stay stress-free and be well. Now, a word from our sponsor. Want to start your own podcast? Start with Anchor FM. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it is absolutely free. They also have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor FM will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many more podcast apps. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So, if you're interested, please download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.